The ABB FIA Formula E World Championship moves back to Europe. Welcome to the Berlin Tempelhof Airport for rounds 13 and 14 of the World Championship. Conditions here for qualifying are abysmal. Let's head down trackside for the latest news, views and opinions.
Formula E calendar, we've had 12 races so far, 4 left to go, and as you can see, the weather has followed us once again. 3 months of racing we've had now. We've had wet weather since Monaco. As you can see, track conditions are far from ideal. It resulted in free practice 2 being cancelled this morning. And as such, qualifying under a little bit of a delay, we understand things at the moment. So here's how it works in qualifying if you're new to Formula E. Welcome along, my name is Tom Brooks, alongside me Alan McNish and Billy Munger here to guide you through the action. So in qualifying in Formula E, you have 2 groups of 11 drivers. They go out for 12 minutes apiece. The top 4 from each of those groups goes into what we call the duels. We have quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then the finals, and that decides who lines up where on the grid. It also gives the driver who qualifies on pole position 3 points here today as well, which could be crucial for this man's championship challenge. Oliver Rowland on the precipice of greatness this weekend. 69 points he has over Pascal Wehrlein in the Drivers' World Championship. Billy, what do you reckon? Can he do it?
He looks pretty relaxed about it, if I'm honest. It looks like he's almost sleeping in the car there, Oliver Rowland. He's got a significant advantage right now in the championship, and that's something that he's built through his consistency and picking up 4 race wins along the way this season so far. So he's the man to beat. He proved that earlier on in the season. Things seem to have got more competitive with more teams and drivers now in the mix, but it's all in his hands, Tom.
Certainly is. Well, going into qualifying here today, a plethora of penalties going on, including for this man's teammate. This is Antonio Felix da Costa. He and Pascal Wehrlein had a coming together at the end of free practice 1 in one of the most bizarre incidents I've ever seen. It's coming out of the final corner, actually on the start-finish straight. Wehrlein straight into the back of da Costa, sent the Portuguese driver into the wall. The upshot is the reigning world champion 3 places lower on the grid.
Yeah, and also Antonio Felix da Costa had to request to the FIA to be able to replace 2 tyres, the front and the rear, because they were damaged as well. And so therefore for the whole Porsche team, then it certainly was the end to free practice 1 that they did not want. For Thomas Volpe, team principal from the Nissan side of things, then I'm sure it was something that in the championship battle, not only for the drivers, also for the manufacturers and the teams, it's Porsche and Nissan. And here I think we see it again.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, really, this.
Well, this is the end of it, and this is da Costa. You see there, it just looks like da Costa spins, but actually, on the onboard shot, then it's quite clear. Here we see that da Costa's finishing a lap on 300 kilowatts, and Wehrlein starting on 350, so that extra acceleration, I think he just misjudged it there on the initial thrust of extra acceleration from Wehrlein, and ultimately that just nosed da Costa into the wall, damaged the right-hand side of the car, tyres, as we heard, and a 3-place grid penalty for Wehrlein for his championship challenge. Then that is exactly the opposite of what you want to see.
Yeah, some of the team principals, as you can see, found the funny side in that incident. I can imagine if you're Florian Modlinger, the team principal of Tag Heuer Porsche, that it's a bit difficult to sort of remain quite stoked-faced for that. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we know that there has been a cooling of a relationship between Wehrlein and da Costa this year. If you believe what you read, sounds like they haven't spoken in a good number of months.
It is, but also that was one of the key dynamics that gave Wehrlein the championship last year. Da Costa very much was on song at the end of the season and really worked as a team player to support then Wehrlein. However, it looks like maybe that's cooler than it is outside today, and today, I tell you, is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And in terms of next year for Antonio Felix da Costa, we understand that he possibly is going to be set to go to a Jaguar seat for season 12 as well. So if he ends up, going over to one of those seats, then, that, I guess, would be great for him. But, yeah, it's not ideal at all, the working relationship they've got in that garage at the moment.
Yeah, you can definitely feel like the tensions are high, and we're getting into that silly season sort of stage, aren't we, Tom, where all these seats are up for discussion. Effectively, there are 2 less seats available for next season with the departure of the McLaren team as well. So it really does, beg the question of who's going to move where and which drivers effectively are not going to be on the grid this next season coming up.
Yeah, exactly. This man here, Sam Bird, looks like he'll be on to pastures new outside of Formula E. He's been a stalwart in this championship since the very beginning, and it'll be very sad to see his departure. On the other side of the garage, Taylor Barnard, where does he end up? Some rumours that he could be bound for a Penske seat next year.
I think it's quite clear that there's a new guard coming into Formula E, which is always good. It's always good to see new energy coming through, and certainly Taylor Barnard, without doubt, has been one of the stars of the season so far. And it's been a difficult year for Sam Bird. He's had definitely performance, but trying to build into the championship challenges we knew he had before. Because we've got to remember, Sam, at the beginning of this championship, the first 7 or 8 seasons, he was there fighting for the title every single final round. And so for him, it must be quite tough as well.
Yeah, not been on the podium since he won in Sao Paulo in season 10.
What a race that was.
Oh, unbelievable. I think my vocal cords have just about recovered from that one. This is Taylor Barnard, the young hotshot who got his first points in Formula E this time last year. He substituted for Sam Bird in Monaco and in Berlin. In Berlin, he got himself into the points, and he's my hot tip for a possible victory this weekend, I have to say. I know that's a bold claim, but his run of form, he's been on that sort of podium run, and it's that win has eluded him, and I just feel it's coming before the end of the year.
Yeah, but I think with the weather conditions we've got, this is where you could see a roll of the dice, especially here in Berlin, a circuit that is quite unique, without doubt, in terms of the surface as being concrete as opposed to tarmac, in terms of the layout of the track, everything else. And I do think we're going to see, especially in qualifying when it comes up, we are going to see somebody getting through that we wouldn't normally expect.
We obviously hope that we're going to see the qualifying session here, but we have seen in the past that free practice results have determined the grid for the races when we've had wet weather.
Tokyo, for example.
For Tokyo, for example, where just looking at what we saw in practice, Pascal Wehrlein was fastest, but obviously he now has that grid penalty, so that would promote Eduardo Mortara if practice is used for the race grid onto pole position, and he was strong last time out as well, wasn't he?
He was, but the best thing, if that actually happened, then you'd have Roland and Wehrlein on the second row of the grid. Now, how Titanic would that be going into the first corner?
Spicy, Alan.
Yeah, but, you know, obviously we all hope that qualifying is going to run. I've got to bring you back as well a couple of years ago. Last time we were here when it was wet, we had an all-apt front row when they were running with the Mahindra powertrain. Robin Freins on pole and Nico Muller sitting in second. So, you know, I look at surprise. There's Muller. He knows what it's like to be off the front row around here, and he's got a car underneath him that I think can deliver in the wet and the dry.
Absolutely. We know that Nico has got the opportunity to, you know, put in a good performance. Was cruelly denied a podium a couple of weeks ago back in Jakarta. Finished on the podium, but then Sebastian Buemi, his result was reinstated. He had a penalty in the race that meant he dropped down the order. After that penalty had all worked out, after an appeal from the Envision team, he was then reinstated for third position after, I believe it was an onboard camera. But I have to say, that car in the garage here, Alan, looks like there's a fair bit of work going on at this stage,
yeah,
right before qualifying.
The back end of it's being prepared there, so it definitely is. It looks like the gearbox and everything is actually detached from it, so it would be good to find out what is happening down there and envision one side of the garage. Sebastian Buemi is certainly not going out immediately, that's for sure.
No. Anyway, whilst we're still under a delay here, waiting for qualifying to get underway, let's head down to Saunders, who's in the pit lane. Saunders, you're on the ground. What's the weather like out there? Has it improved at all?
Well, as you know, Tom, I'm a keen adventurer, and I've got these fancy weather apps that I like to use to see what the conditions are saying. And right now, the weather apps are saying that we've got very similar conditions for the next hour, hour and a half, round about the 1 p.m. mark, where things start to change for the better and get lighter. Having said that, I'm looking at the top of the grandstands at the flags, and they're moving pretty quickly. So there's a bit of a breeze in the air, which makes me think that this might be passing over a little bit more quickly than expected. Right now in the pit lane, it's certainly lightened up. The standing water is still there, but it's getting better. So I think
apologies for our lack of audio. We've had a bit of a technical failure here, so we're going to get it back operational shortly, as our systems have just had a bit of an issue. But let's go down now and join trackside.
Performance this year.
Yeah, he's been great, hasn't he, Max Gunter? When he's had his day, really, had those performances. You know, we saw in Shanghai he'd led home a 1-2 for DS Penske there, first in the team's history. He also won back in Jeddah in February as well, and he's definitely got the opportunity to compete at the sharp end. As we look at Dan Ticktum inside the Cupra Kiro garage at the moment, the most recent race winner in Formula E. He's signed up for next year. Some possible conversations. Recent race winner in Formula E. He's signed up for next year with Cupra Kiro, but we did hear a couple of murmurings as to some possible conversations going on elsewhere. Whether that comes to anything or not is another matter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, to be honest, because Dan, in the last few races, I think in the last 5 races, he's the top point scorer in the whole championship.
He is, yeah.
So he's really picked up form. That Cupra Kiro team using the Porsche powertrain this season, they seem to have picked up the momentum. And Dan, for a while in this championship, has been one of the drivers that maybe hasn't had the package to show his talent off, and that's where, I guess, you know, questions have been brought into play about the other factors that's involved with Dan, his personality, everything like that, and it's been used as a bit of a, I guess, a weapon to beat him down with. But when he's putting in the performances and picking up the points, all of a sudden everyone is going to want to take interest in him.
Yeah, I think it was quite clear that Cupra Kiro were going to take up the option they had on Dan's services, and I don't think it was due to the win last time out. I think it was due to, as you said, that sort of upswing in performances that they've had, and also the team's had as well. You know, the team is starting really to function and deliver as well. But he's definitely a colourful character, and actually I think today in these conditions could be quite interesting. He's got very, very fast hands, Dan Ticktum, and he does like a power oversteer, which we'd love to see as well.
And we know that that car's been good in the wet. I was talking to him before the start of the weekend. He said that the car isn't particularly brilliant in the high-speed sweeping corners. In slower speed circuits like this, it generally favours that Cupra Kiro. Now, here is Felipe Drugovich on the left-hand side of your picture. He is in for Nick de Vries this weekend over at Mahindra. 2 replacement drivers, both Brazilian. Felipe Drugovich in at Mahindra and Sergio Sette Camara in at Nissan. The problem for Drugovich is that he's now got a 20 position place grid penalty for a gearbox change. That was after free practice 1. So whatever happens, he's going to be right down the order.
Tom, you're the man who knows a lot about Formula E, obviously. Has he driven this car in the wet before?
He's never driven this car before, aside from when he did some rookie tests for Maserati.
Yeah, so
I think we're in the dry.
Yeah, so that is also something to consider, although he has got that grid penalty, so we know if we do get the racing like we hope we do later on today, that he'll be starting down at the back of the field. But he's going to want that experience, because he's been out of the seat for a while. He hasn't raced actually since in the single seater since he won the Formula 2 championship in 2022, so that experience will be crucial for him.
Absolutely, and Ollie Rowland's got a new teammate on the other side of the garage. Sergio Sette Camara in for Norman Nato this weekend, hoping to boost their team's challenge in the championship, as well as they sit 10 points adrift of Porsche. Whilst we're still under a delay, let's go down to Saunders, who's in the pit lane. He's catching up with championship leader Oliver Rowland. Let's see what he has got to say.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, Oliver, it's a little bit like deja vu, isn't it? We've been sitting here waiting for qualifying multiple times this season. I know you're no stranger to driving in the wet. You're not afraid of that, but these conditions, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem quite a lot of standing water, but yeah, as a pure racer, it would be nice to get out there and do a lap, but I think like it is now with these tyres, it's quite tricky, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it holds off a little bit and we can get qualifying started later.
Because there's another element, isn't there, with this particular surface here at Tempelhof and how it interacts with the rain. It's super slippery. I mean, even underfoot you can feel it.
Yeah, I mean, you would argue that in Shanghai they let us go in similar conditions, but the runoff there is a lot more as well. Here you have walls all around, so I think they have to take that into consideration. But yeah, I'm sure it would be fun if we could get out there, but yeah, for now we have to wait.
For you, is there an element of eagerness? Because obviously, you know, we talked about the championship, there's a lot at stake, but do you just want to get out there and drive, or are you happy to have this calm time?
I really don't care. I mean, if we don't have qualifying, I start second anyway because of free practice. If we get out there, I'll enjoy it and do my best, so I'm super chill. I don't mind.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Yeah, good to hear from Oliver Rowland there, saying that, well, he's not really bothered if qualifying goes ahead because he'll be starting second on the grid. That pales in comparison to when was qualifying cancelled? Was it Tokyo that it got cancelled? And he was right down the grid because it was set on the FP2 results. So, yeah, it wasn't a particularly brilliant start to that weekend for the Nissan team. Well, let's have a look at some highlights then. This is from free practice 1 yesterday. In the dry conditions, as you can see, we did actually have a smattering of rain yesterday afternoon, but the track was mostly dry for the session. It gave an opportunity for Felipe Dragovic, the replacement driver for Nick de Vries this weekend, to jump out on track, and also Sergio Sete Camara. And a relatively uneventful affair for the majority of the session. You see the drivers making their way through turns 3 and 4. That's been reprofiled for this year, been nice and opened up. It makes it a much more sweeping set of corners now. Yeah, the lap times are a lot faster as well, aren't they, compared to last year? So we saw a big lock-up there for one of the Maseratis. Nearly ended up in the attack mode, but obviously not on purpose on that occasion.
It's fantastic, the slow-mos there coming through 3 and 4. How you can see the car and the tyre moving, and it's so dynamic. But it's pretty bumpy here because each one of these concrete plates has moved over time. They've been here for since the 40s, 50s, and so therefore it does make the circuit a little bit bumpy as well, which gives it a bit of character. Yeah, long time this airfield has been here. We've been racing here in Formula E since the very beginning as well. You can see Pascal Wehrlein making his way through in the Tag Heuer Porsche. He was quickest at the end of free practice 1, setting some really strong lap times, but it was the end of the session really which defined his run. This was him coming together with teammate Antonio Finch da Costa, sending da Costa into the barrier at the end of the session, meaning that a couple of new tyres needed on board there, and again a few more fractures in that relationship, unfortunately. Well, we still sit under a rain delay. Thank you so much for sticking with us here for qualifying for round 13 in Berlin. Pensive times down in the Tag Heuer Porsche garage. This is Pascal Wehrlein sitting second in the Drivers' Championship. And, well, there's a mascot. I can't remember his name, though.
Blue.
Blue. Oh, there you go. Well, that makes sense. Like the colour. Perfect. Nice and inventive. I understand that
there you go.
that Blue is particularly famous, one, for shaking their backside, but two, for also pieing people, sticking a pie in the face.
Yeah, I know, that's it's not too reassuring, is it? That could be coming your way at any
sticking
given point.
clear of them. Yeah, well, we'll see how Blue gets on as the weekend progresses. I have to say, though, it does look nice and warm inside that costume, rather than the conditions here, which... though it's wet and it's about 18, 19 degrees, it is still pretty chilly. Yeah, I mean, there's days to wear a costume like that where it would go down well, and then there's obviously days where if it was like 20, 30 degrees and really warm, yeah, you'd be struggling. So, yeah, Jake Dennis is seeming pretty pumped up, all things considered there. It's been a nice resurgence of form that Dennis has had, actually, this season. If you remember back to last year, sort of struggled in the second half of the season with feeding on the brakes and so on. This year, though he's only 11th in the Drivers' Championship, he's had a good couple of podiums over the last, you know, sort of middle part of the season, and again, the results in Jakarta don't reflect the true potential that he had, because he was on for the victory against Nick de Vries, and if it wasn't for the fact that he had an issue with the full course yellow at the end of that, basically, when you go to full course yellow, you have to push a button on the steering wheel, puts you into a mode where you can't go over a certain speed limit. He pushed that to deactivate it at the end of the full course yellow and stayed at the same speed, so he just went backwards and then ended up finishing 17th. Yeah, I mean, that's a real shame for Jake Dennis, because like you say, there have been true glimpses of speed and performance in Jakarta, and it could have been a real opportunity to score some big points for him and the team, Andretti as well. So, yeah, a real shame. See, just a hint of sunshine trying to break through the clouds there. The track cleaning efforts ongoing here at Berlin. We're optimistic, aren't we, Tom? Hey, you have to be. You have to be in this job, don't you? And what about Nico Müller as well on the other side of the garage? Again, finished on the podium, but was demoted down to 4th following the reinstatement, or the, what should I say, dissolution of the penalty for Sebastian Buemi post-race. A shame there for Nico, but good to see him, again, fighting at the sharp end. It has been a bit of a challenging season on the other side of that Andretti garage, and let's be honest, that seat has I don't want to say been cursed, but it's been hard for the results to come by on that second Andretti seat. Yeah, it's not been plain sailing, but yeah, Nico Müller, I mean, he's up to 5 points finishes now across all the races so far, so he's starting to pick up a little bit of momentum. 2 points finishes in the last 2 races, the second race in Shanghai and the last time out in Jakarta, so momentum is being built, but he'll be obviously hoping with still 4 more races to go that he can continue that form, because when you look at the comparison to Jake Dennis, Jake has had the advantage over him this season. Yeah, no doubt about it. Good to see Biggles down there, by the way, in the Cupertino garage. flying homage to the aviation history of this Tempelhof circuit. This is the Porsche Taycan Turbo GT safety car with Bruno Correa behind the wheel, making his way round that final corner, the triple apex left-hander. You hit the first one, miss the second one, and hit the third one. So track efforts to clear it still ongoing here in Berlin. And, well, the fans still braving the conditions in the grandstand. Out in the first group, by the way, we haven't gone through this so far. We will have Oliver Rowland, Antonio Felix da Costa, Dan Tickton, Maximilian Gunther will be there, Eda Mortara, Jake Dennis, Nico Muller, Sam Bird, Mitch Evans, Zane Maloney, and also Sergio Sette Camara.
Yeah, we've got 2 teams as well in Group A that have got both of their drivers in that part of qualifying. So you've got Andretti, you've got Dennis and Nico Muller in that first part of qualifying, the first group, and Nissan have got Roland and Sette Camara out there, which obviously when you go into the duels you want to try and get both your drivers through if possible.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You see the weather radar there, which doesn't exactly paint a particularly rosy picture at the moment. A few slight breaks in the rain, but we are expecting it to be around for the majority of the day. We did hear earlier on that there were a few murmurings of possible thunderstorms this afternoon as well, just to compound the woes.
Yeah, and that would have its own safety measures in place, which means that people would probably have to evacuate and get to an area that is safe and sound. So that hopefully we don't get those interruptions, because that would not be ideal for the running of the weekend.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Here is Lucas Di Grassi, podium for the Lola Yamaha app team back in Miami, if you remember. We understand that they're set to keep with their lineup for season 12. Sounds like Zane Maloney is, though he's not been able to get any points on the board for that team, the team are impressed with his professionalism, and we know that he's able to get strong results. We saw that in F2 last year.
No, Zane Maloney's a very quick driver. Coming into a team that's obviously rebuilding as well, because Yamaha's new to the championship, new powertrain, and building that takes time. You cannot just come into this one and dominate straight away. So it's unexpected that they would have had better results in reality than what they have had. This is part of a building process. And with Lucas Di Grassi, who's one of the most experienced, if not, I think, the most experienced driver on the grid, and then the youth of Maloney, I think it's a good package to build on for the future.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that team, you know, they're only going to go from strength to strength as the partnership increases.
Yeah, but you also have to remember that APT know what they're doing here. You know, they've won many races and championships, drivers and teams title as well, in different guises through the time. So, you know, I do not have any question in my mind about their capability. It's just the time that is needed to develop to be a championship contender.
Yeah, they always say form is temporary, class is permanent.
There you go. He's just buttering you up, Alan, isn't he, Tom?
I'm not sure who he was talking to. He was looking at himself.
Yeah, I'll take the mirror out of the commentary box next time I'm doing that. But, yeah, it's keen to see what Lola Yamaha Apt are going to be able to do. 3 points finishes so far for Lucas Di Grassi, and we know that Maloney's had a few murmurings as well. So the Porsche safety car still continues to pound round here in Berlin, just trying to clear the circuit up. You can see going down in towards turn 1. This is into turn 2. This is where the attack mode will be activated in racing conditions. And interestingly as well, of course, for season 11, we also have all-wheel drive. So it's going to be interesting how much quicker the lap times will be between the group stages and the dual stages.
Yeah, they'll be quite a bit quicker because there's still quite a long straights here as well. The big advantage on the extra 50 kilowatts is on the initial acceleration. As long as you can get the power onto the ground, obviously here coming out of the hairpins, an area where you will see much more acceleration. As we now go on board with Oliver Rowland from yesterday. This is a lap of the circuit, Billy.
Yeah, it's an interesting circuit, isn't it, as we go down into the first couple of corners. This really long left-hander where it's just about picking your braking point. It narrows it down to the apex at 2, and then through 3 and 4, which has been reprofiled. So it's a lot wider, a lot more faster and free-flowing, which is why
Good morning again, this is Race Control speaking. A quick update from us. We are going to start the session, I hope, at 12 o'clock TBC. At this moment, we are trying to improve track conditions. Please wait for further update, but I think at 11:50 we will go for a 10-minute signal for you guys. So stand by, 12 o'clock TBC qualifying session.
So 12 minutes time, or 11 minutes time now as the clock counts down, that we should get qualifying underway. That is great news here as we look at Oliver Rowland pattering his way through the final corner and coming across the timing line. So it'll be a 10-minute warning then for the drivers and the teams to get themselves ready. One man who we are not sure is going to be competing in qualifying will be Sebastian Buemi. We saw the car with a lot of repair work going on about 20 or so minutes ago. The upshot is he has got a 40-position grid penalty for changing the MGU and the motor control unit as well. And he's down in the pit lane catching up with Saunders.
Sebastian Buemi, I saw you just over on the pit wall then, having a look at the conditions, watching the safety cars go by. What's your assessment?
Well, it's kind of hard to say, but, you know, lately we've had so much rain. I guess the race director and Bruno, the safety car driver, they have a good understanding of what is okay and not okay. So I guess if they are delaying the qualifying session, it means it's not yet okay. But it's also concrete. It's totally different to what we usually have. So the concrete basically does not absorb the water. It just stands on it. So, of course, aquaplaning is obviously quite bad.
So then, looking ahead, in the eventuality that, let's say, we do get out, for you, I guess qualifying sort of moot, because you've got that penalty for the gearbox change, so yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. We've got 40 grid place penalty. So regardless on where I qualify, I'll have to start last and do a stop and go. So it doesn't really matter. But of course, going out there and doing a few laps is always good because you get a bit up to speed. It looks like it's going to be wet tomorrow as well. So yeah, you want to get some laps in, you know. But of course, safety is an important matter.
It's worth reminding the viewers watching as well that you mentioned there about the standing water. We all want to get out on track, but there's no point going out on track if the first incident causes a stoppage and the second one. There's nowhere for the cars to go if there is a problem, is there?
Yeah, it's true that we had bad conditions in Shanghai, but it was a normal track, so if you spin, usually you're off the racing line, where here with all the walls, you basically stay in the middle of the track. So clearly, yeah, I guess if we're not driving, it just means, you know, there's just too much water and we'll have to wait.
Still, though, just looking back at Jakarta, you had that penalty overturned, the podium points reinstated. That must have been welcome news.
Yeah, we fought kind of hard because we thought, you know, what I did was okay, and I was glad to see that the FIA accepted, you know, the right of review, and then we had the second hearing and they accepted to remove the penalty, which I think was the right decision. So kind of happy with that, and of course, as you say, you get more points, so everyone's happy.
Thanks, Seb.
Thank you.
Thank you to Saunders, thank you to Sebastian Buemi. Good to hear from them both. So, well, Buemi, 40-place grid penalty. He'll be in the middle of Cologne by the sounds of things when he lines up on the grid for the E-Prix this afternoon. And also to compound that, he's got a stop-and-go penalty. So I suppose, of course, because that stop-and-go penalty, as well as the pit boost, he's going to have to go for a safety car to try and bring him back in contention here, isn't he, do you reckon, Alan?
Without doubt, but you know, I think he's going to have to be doing a lot of praying to be able to have the situation where he's back in. Ultimately, they're looking to more towards tomorrow and also for London in this particular situation. But you know, sometimes these things have to be done. You try and take the penalty in the least affected time, if it is it's one where you have the decision. And with the wet condition as well, and it's likely to be pretty wet this afternoon, then you know, you never know what can happen. You know, it's an opportunity for people that maybe, like for example, the ABB team, as we said before, they had been on the front row of the grid with a car that wasn't that competitive previously, and so it's an opportunity for people maybe to grab a result that you wouldn't normally expect.
Yeah, if there's one man who can do something in the wet, it is Sebastian Buemi. Remember back to Monaco when he won the race in incredible style. So let's see whether he's able to do something as Oliver Rowland just getting himself ready to get back inside the Nissan. Go out for this Group A qualifying session. One thing I think we should touch on as well prior to the start of qualifying is that there has been an update in some of the driving standards that have come through from the FIA. So essentially what this means is that because of the shortness of the lap that we've got here in Berlin, drivers are going to be coming out of the pit boost race this afternoon potentially very close to the race leaders. And what's happening is there is an abandonment of blue flags for a period of about 4 or so laps, meaning that if you come out and you're ahead of the race leaders, you don't have to lift off and let them through.
It's critical that, Tom, because that could really impair your race if blue flags were going to get shown. You could go from the lead of the race, pit, and be right into some traffic right with those cars, and that could really cost you with those blue flags. I think it is really important to have that window in the race where you can make that pit boost mandatory stop. Yeah, it's just really important for the race. I'm glad that it's just been cleared up so we don't have to try and explain it in that sort of terms during the race itself. It should be hopefully fairly straightforward.
Yeah, obviously lap times are going to be that little bit slower in the wet conditions as we're expecting it to be. We were down in the sort of high 57s yesterday, which was about 4.5, 5 seconds quicker than we had in FP1 12 months ago, just to give you an idea of how much quicker these machines are. Obviously, we know the track has been reprofiled a bit and sped up, but nonetheless, very impressive performance from the Gen 3 Evos here.
I've just actually been outside and it's still raining. It's lighter rain than it was before, but it is actually still raining. But the interesting thing is if you just slide your foot on the surface, it is super slippery. So whoever goes out there, they're going to be dancing on their toes inside the car, trying to get the 300 kilowatts down onto the ground for the acceleration. I think this is going to be a really, really interesting session.
Do you think that opportunity is going to knock for some drivers? I'm thinking of the likes of Zane Maloney, maybe possibly even Sergio Sette Camara here, Billy.
Yeah, I mean, both of those drivers have had plenty of experience of driving in wet weather conditions, maybe not so much in Formula E. Obviously, Zane Maloney, he's been in on the grid for the whole of this season, so he's got experience like all the others have because that rain has been following us so consistently, and Sergio Sette Camara has been in Formula E in the past as well.
No doubt about it. So we are just under 5 minutes away from getting qualifying underway, and here are the two groups that will be going out in Berlin for round 13. So Oliver Rowland, Da Costa, Ticktum, Gunter, Mortara, Dennis, Muller, Bird, Evans, Maloney, Sette Camara in Group A. Group B, Verline, Bernard, Verne, Cassidy, Buemi, Van Dorn, Jake Hughes, Lucas de Grassi, Robin Freitz, David Beckman and Felipe Drugovich. Now, some caveats to that because we have got a plethora of penalties following practice. So Drugovich has got a 20-place grid penalty for a gearbox change. Cassidy has a 20-place grid penalty for an inverter change. Buemi, as we spoke about previously, has a 40-place grid penalty and a stop and go for changing his MGU and his MCU.
And it's just been announced that there will be no qualifying duels. There will just be a group stage of racing. So there will be no duels, just group qualifying, similar to what we had in China.
No matter what happens here. But if one of them does qualify on pole, they're still awarded pole position. They are still awarded those 3 points.
Which, thinking of the championship, Pascal Wehrlein, it gives him even more incentive to go for that pole position today and those 3 points, because one, he needs him in the championship, and also he wants to qualify as high as possible, so when that 3-place penalty comes into effect, it doesn't really put him down into potentially the midfield if he didn't make it out of the group stages of qualifying. He could be right in the mix there, which is where we more than likely see incidents in Formula E.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see how it works out, because wet conditions haven't necessarily been his strongest point. If you look in the midpoint of the season, Monaco, he only managed to get it to 10th on the grid in the wet qualifying. Tokyo again, when it was wet, 17th is where he lined up. Jakarta last time out, 14th on the grid. Has had a couple of pole positions in season 11, but they were right at the start in Sao Paulo and in Mexico.
I think it's worth noting his track record around this circuit as well, because currently he's got the longest streak of people in the duels here in Tempelhof. The last 3 duels he's made it, so 3 in a row, although with that he's never started here in the top 5. So it's one of those circuits where he normally makes it through the group stages qualifying, but hasn't gone on to do anything particularly special in the duels.
What do you think the drivers in Group B are going to be able to learn from Group A? Obviously, they're going out, 12 minutes after, essentially, aren't they? So what do you think they can take from what we're going to see in a few minutes into their sessions?
I think the fact that this circuit isn't a permanent fixture and doesn't have loads of running, normally in the wet weather conditions, the drivers will be trying to avoid the rubber.
So from our weather forecast, it should not rain anymore in our session, so the lap time will increase all along the session normally.
So that's a good point as well, because you could get a case of last driver to cross the line ends up being the quickest.
Yeah, I think, and definitely, like I was just touching on before the team radio there, the learnings will be the lines and where the grip is around this circuit, because normally when the rubber's placed down on the circuit, on a more conventional circuit, the drivers try to avoid that rubber because it becomes really slippery in wet weather conditions. So here, where we haven't, it's not a permanent fixture in a circuit on the calendar of multiple racing championships, those lines might be different.
So, we've just had confirmation come through that there will be no dual stages of qualifying. It is just the groups that are going to decide the grid. So, the odd numbers on the grid will be decided in Group A. The even numbers will be decided in Group B. So, if you're out in Group A, you've got an opportunity for pole. If you're in Group B, you don't.
Yes. Is that definite so that it's not the fastest?
Well, that's how it was when we were in Shanghai.
In Shanghai.
Yeah.
If they follow that, then yes. If they follow it the other way, where it's the fastest group, then undoubtedly, as we just heard there, there's less rain expected, so therefore the circuit in theory should get quicker all the way through, then it would be Group B.
It's interesting with that format that Tom's just touched on there, Alan, because that means Pascal Wehrlein, being in Group B, cannot fight for those 3 points for pole position. So what do you make of that? That instantly worsens his chances, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly doesn't help his chances, but he's got to also be quickest in Group B to be able to be off the front row anyway, and so I think he's got a bit of work to do.
The difficulty that they have in situations like this, wait for it this moment as we get the green light underway. So
we're underway for qualifying.
Does now finally begin here in Berlin. Thank you so much for sticking with us as we get cars out on track for this 12-minute qualifying session. But just to finish that point, the difficulty you've got between Group A and Group B is obviously there's time that goes past. If the rain then comes down for Group B and your lap times are absolutely down in towards turn 6 and 7, that's the hairpin there. This is Antonio Felix da Costa in the Tag Heuer Porsche making his way through the next double apex hairpin of turns 9 and 10. You can see it's quite wide going into there, but it gets quite tight as you head in before the braking zone, so it really bottlenecks up and then widens again.
Yeah, it looks quite pedestrian in these first few laps. The driver's really just taking their time here to build into the session here. We've got 12 minutes on the clock, we've got plenty of time, and we do expect the lap times to drop towards the end of the session. We're looking at Nico Müller here, and you can see how he aggressively put the steering wheel on there. A lot of steering lock to try and overslip those front tyres, to try and set the car into a bit of understeer and then get that rotation later in the corner. So the driver's trying lots of different things in the road. Well, with Rich Evans there, a slide as he got on the power there.
And what we have seen in the wet conditions as well, some teams play with tyre pressures as well to try to force the tyre to build energy, to build temperature. And big oversteer there from Evans as he tries to put the power down through the puddle. It's very slippery. Yeah,
it's very slippery out here. As we welcome you back up to the commentary box as well. Evans down on the first sector time, not looking 100%. It's sliding around, coming out of the rear as well. So they need to be extra careful. They don't want the one thing, which would be to have a major accident in this session. Because then that kind of, it makes everything go a million times harder in the session later on. So, Evans will be the first one to complete a lap time delta. And fingers crossed, it's going to be just about enough. Second sector. Over the line, rear of the car. Twitching out for Mitch Evans, but it's across the line with a 116.339 for Mitch in the Jag. What about Oliver Rowland? Got a chance now this weekend in the first session to hold it through. Oh, and Rowland nearly into the wall as well as he comes over the line. And Rowland does fourth fastest time. So remember, there's no duels. It's just a qualifying format here for the two, as Dan Tipton is struggling in the Cooper Cairo to keep it on control. The rear stepping out every second here. They're still trying to hold the advantage to come through. Evans, Dennis, Da Costa, Muller, Gunther, Maloney, Bird, Mortara, Seta Kamara, Rowland all coming through as well. Apparently our computer is having a little bit of a crash. I hope you can still hear us okay. Let us know in the YouTube comments if you can while it resets itself. And yeah, it's just done it now, actually. It used up a lot of RAM gigabyte for some reason. Evans on top, though, and his two sector times are going faster and faster among the two. So I'm expecting him to have a little bit more of an oomph coming through in the next few moments' time. Yeah, and as you can see, our Wi-Fi... yeah, okay, so we might be a bit glitched. I apologise. for that as Da Costa moves up to second, Dennis in third, Muller in fourth, as we're back with you now on our systems. Gunther over the line, goes up into third position. I think we had a lap time lead. Seti Kamara has moved up as well. Roland goes into second position. Dan Ticktum now goes into P2, so he's changed the deltas out here on the lap times at the moment. 7.5 minutes to go then here in qualifying. Number one, let's hear from Roland.
2/10 sector 1, 1 second sector 2, P2 at the moment.
Just giving him the stats that he needs to know, the information, as Roland really is fighting for control here as they come under braking. Rear stepping out down into the hairpin on the old start-finish straight we come through now as well into the braking zone for what was turn 1, now turn 9. Before coming in then for the last two corners on the circuit. They really have massively reprofiled this circuit. Paddock in the same place, it's just the overall pit lane moved to the opposite side for a new start line procedure. Over the line then, Evans again, a 1:13.284, again, faster and faster and faster on the deltas.
Finish a flying lap, and so it will definitely come down as Da Costa, but they're still a second off. It looks like they've got their setup pretty right, and also Evans is definitely driving. Here, as they come out of that final corner, as Roland finishes a lap, puts himself up into P2, still 1 second off though. Then they're crossing the painted lines, which is the start-finish. That's what's actually giving them the kick of oversteer, not necessarily any puddles.
It's interesting this as well because, of course, no dual stages of qualifying due to the time constraints that we've got here at Berlin. So drivers now staying out for the majority of this session. What you traditionally see in a dry session is drivers going out, doing one run, coming back in, changing the tyres, then going back out again. But that's completely turned on its head. So Ticktum just slots himself up into fourth quickest. Ignore the duals part of that barrier on the left-hand side on the graphic, because it is going to be this session and this session only for Group A, and then the same for Group B in a few moments' time. Fastest time from the groups will determine the grid order this afternoon for the E-Prix.
But there, Billy, if you look at Evans's lines, they're very different to what we've seen from the other drivers at the moment. And again, he's looking as if he's smooth, he's looking as if he's slow, but actually he's super quick. Now, in this group, nobody will be able to watch and copy. However, Group B will be watching exactly what Evans is doing and replicating it.
Particularly if you're Nick Cassidy as well, Tom, because, you know, you've got that information within the team there at Jaguar. So he, with the momentum that he's starting to build coming into the end of the season, he'll be hoping to capitalise on any data or any advantages he can gain from what Mitch Evans is currently doing right now, which is just setting purple sector after purple sector.
Yeah, but what he's doing is he's about 2 or 3 metres different on the line in quite a few corners. He came out onto the back straight, and it looked as if he was keeping out of the way of a faster car. He was nowhere near the racing line, but he was able to get the power down, he was able to get the car straight, and clearly it's working, because he's still, every lap is 1 second ahead of any of the competition, doesn't matter who it is at the time.
Let's have a look at some super slow-mos here from Oliver Rowland, just making his way through this left-hander. This is the final sector of the lap, which leads on to the start-finish straight. You can see the driver's eye view, and it's coming into the sort of right-handed kink onto the checkered flag that has, or the timing line rather I should say, there's that kick of oversteer there that looks quite frightening.
Yeah, it's that kink of what is not, effectively not a corner in the dry, but in the wet becomes a corner and becomes a moment where the car can be unsettled, can kick into oversteer, and where you can lose traction critically, as Alan was touching on earlier. And that in the wet is what you need. You need traction out of all the corners so you get that direct drive rather than min sliding around.
Well, Mitch Evans has never had a front row start here in Berlin. His best position on the grid was third back in 2021. So we've still got Group B to go, so let's not count the chickens just yet, but there's still plenty of opportunity for improvements. The risk you've got in these last 3 minutes of the session, if you're waiting until the latter stages for the best improvements, if you get a yellow flag or even a red flag possibly, then your lap time is done and dusted.
It does also feel like, Tom, it's going to be whoever crosses the line with the least amount of time to go. That's going to be really critical for the session, because we are seeing consistent improvements as Mitch Evans is about half a second roughly up through the first couple of sectors on his previous best, which is nearly a second faster than Jake Dennis in second.
Yeah, I think everybody's fighting for second here, if I'm very honest with you.
It does look like that, doesn't it?
I don't think anyone's got any sort of 3 minutes to go, sort of 3 laps.
He's just gone 9/10 quicker than Jake Dennis last time around to build that gap up to 1.9 seconds almost.
Evans is absolutely fantastic. DaCosta now gets inside a second of it, so he's 8/10 faster than Dennis, but Evans is on another level.
But he's still a second adrift.
But it's consistently a second. That's the thing for me. He's every single lap he's got a second advantage, and that's not in one corner. It's built up over the lap because he's quick in every single sector.
The middle sector looks like his strongest part of the lap, although, like you say, Alan, everywhere he is stronger. But he was about half a second of his 1 second margin over DaCosta came in that middle sector. So whatever he's doing in particularly those slow speed corners, those hairpins, getting the traction out of those corners, that seems to be really working for Mitch Evans. But he's just building that momentum. He's not really taking any cool laps, is he, Alan? He's just consistently, just lap after lap, putting in the sectors.
And someone else, Maxi Günther, now has just taken away the fastest first sector from Mitch Evans.
Yeah, this is a bit more like it from Max Günther. Last pole we had, by the way, for Mitch Evans, just to finish off that last thought, was back in London last year. So it's been a long time, nearly 12 months since we saw the Kiwi starting on pole position. Günther loses time now in the second sector, so that's clearly where Evans is gaining the advantage over the rest of the field here.
Yeah, it wasn't even Günther's best middle sector, so he dropped a lot of time himself, and ultimately see if it puts him up into P2, currently P3.
Yeah, the personal best coming in from Oliver Rowland. Günther does go up to second quickest, but still a second shy of the time set by Mitch Evans. What can Rowland do, though? Critical weekend for the boy from Barnsley. Goes up second quickest, 7/10 of a second away. That's a bit more like it.
1 minute 22, so there's going to be quite soon the people will be starting their final lap.
Look at the spray on the start-finish straight here. I wonder if there's been a sudden downpour.
Suggestion, less V-shaping 6 and 9 and wider entry turn 9. Currently P3.
A lot of errors, a lot of differentials as Evans again fastest across the two sectors. Just time and time again he's having it. Delta upon delta. Over the line then comes Mitch Evans. What's it this time? A 1:10 over the line? It's a 1:11.241. He's now 1.333 seconds a lap faster than anybody else out there on the circuit. This is incredible stuff right now from Mitch Evans. Remember, that looks like it could be pole position as Gunther slides coming out of the last corner of turn 15, nearly whacks the rear suspension. It is getting very much a big spray across that line. Gunther goes third. Now, what does Rowland do over the line? Does he find an improvement with the flag coming out shortly? Rowland goes into second position, so just down on the overall deltas. So Evans, Rowland, Gunther, DaCosta, Tickton, Mortara, Muller, Dennis, Bird, Maloney, Seta Kamara. Looks like that's going to be the running order as the checkered flag comes out. Mitch Evans will take the flag across the line and misses as well. Evans is on provisional pole position as things stand. A few more bits coming through there out of the back. Evans, fastest middle sector. Don't tell me he's going to go even faster. A 1:11.241 was his delta, and he takes it to a 1:11.021. Evans again, much, much faster. Rowland into P2. Gunther's got third. DaCosta's fourth. Tickton, Mortara, Bird. They've locked up Muller, Dennis, Maloney, and Seta Kamara. I think that's it. Nobody else finding improvements, and the checkered flags are out for everybody. So Q1, Group 1 has finished because there is no duels here in this qualifying. It would just be the two groups. Fastest will be on pole, and they'll set the odd side of the grid, 1, 3, etc. 2, 4 for the second group slower. Group B will start at 17 minutes past the hour. That's the word from race control. So the flag comes out, and now we will wait again to see what's going to happen next. This is DaCosta down to the hairpin at turn 9. Goes way off the circuit. Has to loop it back together. That's where the old paddock complex used to be for Formula E. And then they moved it to the new resumption area. Okay, well, there we go. Group B about to start soon.
It's 1:13s, and Seta Kamara just in the 1:14s there as well. I mean, what a session from Mitch Evans.
It felt like every lap he was just getting faster and faster, extending that gap to the rest of the field to be nearly a second faster than the rest. I mean, he is at one with that car, and he's really comfortable in those conditions, and that was obvious from the first lap there.
Well, the question is now, what will Group B be able to do? Will we see continual improvements? You would imagine so, because it doesn't look like the rain's getting heavier.
Yeah, I think we will. In that last lap. Thought it was done. Copy. Yeah, good job. Evans 11.0, clearly a world away, but then Gunther third, 12.3, and Dak in fourth.
So a world away for Mitch Evans there.
Yeah, I think the critical thing for me, we talk about how the circuit's likely to improve, but a second advantage over the rest of the field might mean they don't improve by a second in the next part of qualifying if no one's got Mitch Evans' consistency there.
Well, let's get confirmation of the results then. So Evans fastest by a second over Oliver Rowland in Group A, Gunther in third, De Costa in fourth, Tickton fifth, Mortara and Muller sixth and seventh, then Bird, Dennis, Maloney and Sergio Sette Camara. Just a reminder, no dual stages for the qualifying session for round 13 here today, so that will be the order of Group A. We'll wait and see what Group B is able to do. As we said, lap times fluctuating in the 1 minute 11s and sort of low to mid 1 minute 12s on average in that session. Will the track conditions improve sufficiently enough for further lap times to come down in Group B? Because we'll have Verline, Barnard, Vern, Cassidy, Buemi, Van Dorn, Hughes, De Grassi, Freitz, David Beckman and Felipe Drugovic out there. Again, just to caveat that as well, Cassidy has got a 20-place penalty, Buemi's got a 40-place penalty, Verline has a 3-place penalty, and Drugovic has a 20-place penalty. So Verline here, I think he's got probably the best opportunity, maybe Cassidy as well, to be honest with you, to get themselves onto pole position and get those 3 points, but they won't be starting from there come the E-Prix this afternoon.
Robin Freins.
That's your...
I'm going to throw in Robin Freins as in this Group B.
Billy, do you want to put your hat into the ring there?
Difficult. I think Nick Cassidy, I think he's good in the wet, and I think that Jag looks strong there.
Yeah, so we understand that Sebastian Buemi will not be taking to the start of this qualifying session. No surprise at all. We saw the car in bits about half an hour ago, and it's not ready for qualifying. Either way, he was going to be at the back of the grid, so important for the team to get that sorted. As we look at Mitch Evans in the Jaguar garage here. Well, what a session from Mitch Evans, fastest with a 1 minute 11 flat, a second faster than the next competitor in Group A. Group B is up next though, so Verline, Barnard, Vern, Cassidy, Buemi, Van Dorn, Hughes, De Grassi, Freitz, Beckman and Felipe Drugovic are the 11 drivers that will be taking to the track in a few moments time. And just a reminder, no dual stages of qualifying, so these 2 group sessions will determine the grid for the E-Prix of round 13 this afternoon. Green light is on then, the session gets underway, and what are these drivers going to be able to do? They'll know there's grip out there on the racetrack, they'll have seen that from the drivers a few moments ago, but how much faster are the times going to be in Group B as we see the cars filtering out onto the track? So lots of activity at the end of a pit lane here. Presumably here, Alan, we're going to see drivers doing what we saw in Group A, going out for the whole session. Yeah,
I think so. You know, you've got to remember that the tyres are not going to heat up to the same level, but also the other thing is it's a longer lap, so they will do less laps than they would in the dry anyway.
Please do not slow down at the pit exit area, please.
That's race director.
Speed now.
Don't do the Formula One.
Marek giving the drivers the hurry up at the end of pit lane there.
Yeah, obviously drivers taking their time, maybe trying to create a bit of a gap for them to then get into the rhythm out on circuit with visibility and the wet weather conditions and the spray being a factor. But he just wants them, if they get to the end of the pit lane, don't slow down, don't do it there. Take the time to find a gap whilst you're out on circuit, not at the end of the pit lane.
Yeah, don't do what they do in Formula One and slow down and
inside
annoy
the garage for Diaz Penske at the moment. Ended that Group A qualifying session a few minutes ago in third fastest with a 1:12.2, a couple of tenths of a second slower than Oliver Rowland.
So the strategy from Jaguar is exactly the same. Get their driver out front in the clearer air to at least see the first few laps and push with the first person to cross the line to start a lap being Nick Cassidy.
Away we go.
Turns 3 and 4. Don't forget about the Formula E prediction on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Tell us who you think is going to be getting pole position here today for the E-Prix this afternoon.
It's a lot drier than it was before. Remember the first lap we saw Nick Cassidy when he was having snap power oversteers coming through that corner. But there, as you, sorry, Nick Cassidy, I was meaning Evans. There, Nick Cassidy comes into the hairpin and locks up the rear, slides in a little bit deep.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how quick they start this session off, because it was down in the 1:16s at the start of Group A qualifying, and it eventually ended up in the 1:11. So let's see where the benchmark is at for when they get these first laps finished here.
Yep, and lap time delta is coming in now as we come up towards the line. Verline's got a good middle sector coming through so far as he swings it into the last corner. Cassidy 2. Finding the delta. Mitch Evans was the fastest lap so far. Big snap of rear from Verline. 2 snaps coming out of turn 15 as well. 1:16.762. Verline even with those snaps. It's a 1:15.574. So Vern looking stronger as well as they come down into the braking zone. Round into turns 12, 13 and then 14. A triple apex last corner. Kink at 15 over the line, and Jean-Eric Verne takes us with a third fast time and finds his top.
How's that
Track
temperature?
is still improving, so let's just build up through this session.
Friends saying the track's still improving. Let's just go with it. Friends, Verline, Hughes, Barnard, Cassidy, Verne. That's your 6 so far. Barnard a little deeper to turn 1. Let's take a look at Robin Friends on his qualifying lap. Rear stepping out at the exit of the hairpin. Down at, well, he's down at turns, well, that's actually early on in the lap, isn't it? That's out of turn 2, where the rear stepped out. So just got to have a little bit more of patience and control here at Berlin as the session goes on. No qualifying duels, remember, that's the information from race control. That's our Delta guideline that we have been given, that we will not be having any of that duels session. Let's take a look at the track temperatures as well. That probability of rains never works, but track temperature at 19, air temperature at 16, that is correct, at least on our race control information. The qualifying duels will not take place, so pole will be awarded to the fastest driver in the group stage. Verne, 1:14.785. Hughes looking quicker. Barnard, 1:14.294. Now, I don't know why we've done the group stage. They could have sent them all out on the track and done a 20-minute session in my book, but at least we get the group stages in some way of a qualifying format that reminisces what we have. 7 minutes to go then here in this session so far.
Surface water as well, and I think the majority of it's coming from the tyre gaining a bit more grip and the driver's sussing out what is making the car work on this particular surface, what the lines are, because the circuit is, you know, new in the environment. It's changed a little bit through turns 3 and 4 as well, so from that perspective I think they're just finding their way and the tyres are just developing a bit more grip as they run.
Yeah, part of the lap I'm watching out for here, Tom, is the middle sector, because just looking at the sectors that we saw in Group A, the real clear advantage that Mitch Evans had, nearly 6/10 of a second compared to the rest of the field, was in the middle part of the lap. I think if you can get that sector right, the traction out of those slow-speed hairpins, that is crucial for the lap time there.
Well, we saw him taking all sorts of different lines, didn't we, over the course of that lap, and it seemed to be working for him. You see it sometimes in other series where drivers are taking karting lines, wider lines in, where the rubber's been sort of set down. Of course, we only had one session in the try, so there wasn't really much of an opportunity for that as Barnard goes up to third quickest. Lap time's now coming down into sort of the window that we were expecting. We're now down into the 12s, the high 12s, admittedly, but again, a bit more on kilter with what we saw in Group A. Yeah, but that high 12 of Verline, a 12.894, is basically within the same 10th of a second as his teammate Antonio Felix da Costa did in the first group stage. So I think there's a little bit more pace for Verline in there. He's also watched what was happening in that first session. He's also watched the lines that people were taking and understood a little bit more of what you can get out of it. So I expect them to be actually a little bit quicker. Impressed with Felipe Dragovic in the Mahindra, actually. He's only half a tenth of a second, isn't it, really, over Jake Hughes. He's been in the Formula E machines all season. Drugovic, of course, a super sub for Nick de Vries, who's overweight racing in the World Endurance Championship. Yellow down at turn 6 at the moment as well. Not quite sure what that's all about. We'll come to a stop. Can't see anybody, but it's a brief yellow flag, thankfully, and it's not going to cause anybody any dramas. 5 minutes to go then in Group B. Again, the yellow flag just comes out briefly down turn 6, but goes away again. So Fright's currently quickest, 1:12.1. So again, that's a bit more like it. Bit deep there for Barnard down into turn 1. And what about Lucas de Grassi, most experienced driver on the field? Superman livery. Can he put in a Superman performance here this afternoon in qualifying?
Nice and smooth as he came out of the final corner there. That was really neat. Whether it's quick enough or not, we'll wait and see. And still stays 6th.
Yeah, so not much of an improvement there for him as he comes across the line in terms of positions. At least Drugovic still in 8th quickest at the moment, but no wet weather running for him. This is his first single-seater race since 2022 when he won the Formula 2 title. It's great to have Felipe in the series, and keen to see what he is going to be able to do. He said, I'm looking forward to the races. I'm probably going to make some mistakes in the first one, but I can learn from that. We've got the chance to go again tomorrow, so he's just looking at this weekend as a nice learning experience.
Yeah, he's a super talented and intelligent driver. I actually had the opportunity when I first drove a Formula 3 car back in 2018. I went for a test, and it was me and Felipe Drugovic, and he was competing in a full season at that point. It was halfway through the season, so he was someone that I learned a lot of how to drive those cars with. I think he's very adaptable, which coming into Formula E at this point in the season is going to be critical.
Robin Freins just popped in another quicker lap. He's done really well there, but now he's got 7/10 of an advantage over anyone else, and no one seems to be challenging going quicker.
Well, that would be enough for second on the grid at the moment for Robin Freins to be a front row start. He's still about 0.8 of a second shy from Mitch Evans' quickest time. Down in towards the hairpin we go. Buemi's under investigation for not setting a lap time in the first 6 minutes of qualifying. We know about all of that. Again, more yellow flags coming out down at turn 6. I think that's just due to drivers going quite slow through there, maybe backing off and deciding to reset and go again for a lap time next time around.
So Verline here, 3rd quickest. He's been quicker than before on the middle sector, but not quick in the first sector, and this maybe pushes him up. I don't think it'll be up challenging for Robin Freins' position.
Drugovic has just gone up to 5th fastest as well. That's really impressive from Felipe Drugovic. But
Verline now takes it to a 1:12.059, but Robin Freins over the line is even faster. Yes, he is. It's a 1:11.670. So it was effectively going to be between Freins and Evans, who could possibly win this race later on today. Cassidy.
I have a handbrake, dude. I hit the brake and nothing happens, and then all of a sudden all the lights come on, and I have a handbrake.
Oh, Cassidy's not happy.
Technical problems possibly here for Nick Cassidy. That's not what he wants. Maybe that's why we've not seen the pace in the second Jaguar compared to his teammates in Group A. Drugovic, though, on an absolute flyer. Personal best in Sector 1, personal best in Sector 2. Can he improve and bump himself up the order as he comes to set the checkered flag? Loses time in the 3rd sector. Stays 3rd quickest. 2 minutes to go here in Group B. And let's see what these drivers can do in terms of improving lap times.
I've been looking at the sectors, Tom, and at the minute it's 0.6 of a second. The difference between Group B, which is currently 0.6 slower than Group A. And to be honest, it's about 0.2 in every single one of the sectors compared to what Mitch Evans was able to produce in Group A. So there's a little bit of time all over the lap that needs to be found if they want pole position.
Good improvement. Keep pushing till the end. 3 more laps.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tall order for these drivers to be able to better the times that we saw in Group A. The rain has continued to fall in this session, and as such, conditions have not improved sufficiently enough for any major improvements to come. We are going to see a bit of a jumbled up grid order because the lap times we have seen in this, some of them are faster than the times we saw in Group A.
You say that though, Tom, but interestingly, there's a lot of drivers that are quite consistently in the 1:12s. When we look at what we saw in Group A, Mitch Evans was in the low 1:11s, but there were drivers that were 5th and 6th in the session that were in the 1:13s.
Verline's on a quick one here, Billy, as well. Passes in the 1st sector. What about Sector 2 for the reigning world champion? This is where we saw Mitch Evans being incredibly quick, and personal best in Sector 2 then for Pascal Verline. Could he be ready to knock Robin Freins off the top of the order? Tight line in that first apex there.
Verline's looking quick as he comes out of the last corner, up towards the line now. Is he going to be anywhere near Friends' time? Oh, he moves within 40 thousandths. Verline goes over 1:11.546, but Robin Friends is looking quicker as well as they come out. The checkered flag is being made ready here in Berlin, and Friends retakes it. 1:11.109. You just can't make it up what's going on out here right now on the circuit. It's unbelievable. So Friends, 1:11.109 from Verline. It's just inside the pole position time, I reckon. Hughes goes up to second position. That could be fourth on the grid. So Hughes really is starting to have an impressive gambit as they come through. Just trying to have a reminiscent of what the end of the session was. They haven't got that lap time from Evans in the previous session. Van Dorn, Djokovic, Degrassi goes into 8th place as well. So they're finding the delta still. Cassidy's got a good first sector. Personal best from him. I think that was what it was really needed to be as well. Finding that data. Over the line we come now then. Trying to find out what that overall time was. 1:11.021. Look how close Friends was. What about Jean-Eric Verne as he comes over the line now? Does he have anything for pole position? Answer, no. Fourth fastest. And Barnard, unless he improves up to break it through, I think he's going to start 10th on the grid over the line and does so. It is pole position for Mitch Evans. Robin Friends will start second on the grid. Group A take the odd side. Group B take the even. So Friends 2, Hughes 4, Verline 6, Verne 8, 10 for Barnard, 12 for Van Dorn, 14 Djokovic, 16 Degrassi, 18 Cassidy, and 20th for Behrman.
What could maybe have been, but a fantastic effort from him.
Yeah, great job from Robin Friends. Well, he was your pick of the bunch, Alan, and he was quickest in that session.
Yep.
Brilliant job.
You called it.
Checks in the post. Great job from Robin Friends. Pole position he got here for the Abt Cupra team back in 2023.
Yeah, sorry for the last lap, man. I don't see it.
Yeah, no, it was just tight to get that last one in, but as P1 in the group, I'll let you know, I think.
Yeah, so we are fairly certain that's going to be the front row of the grid. A 1:11 flat it was for Evans, a 1:11.1 for Robin Friends. The second row of the grid will be occupied by Jake Hughes and Pascal Verline because we saw 1:11s from those two as well, and then it all gets a little bit difficult to work out. I think it'll be Oliver Rowland next up.
Yeah, Oliver Rowland will be starting the race from third because he was second in Group A. So at the minute it looks like Rowland will be third, Gunter 5th, Da Costa 7th, and Van Tickton will be 9th.
Well, let's have a look then and get confirmation of the Group B classification then. So Robin Friends starts on pole, starts second on the grid on the front row for the Envision team as he sets the fastest lap time in Group B ahead of Jake Hughes. Verline in third, Verne in fourth, Barnard, Van Dorn, Djokovic and Degrassi, Cassidy down there in 9th place ahead of Beckman and Buemi. So that's how it all works out. The upshot is it'll be Mitch Evans who takes his first points of 2025 and also takes his first pole position in nearly 12 months. How the tables have turned for Mitch Evans, but a great confidence booster for him going into the E-Prix this afternoon.
Yeah, massive confidence booster. I mean, the Jaguar team in general had some glimpses of pace yesterday in free practice in the drive with Nick Cassidy being third, but Mitch Evans was down in 20th in free practice, although he didn't use his 350 kilowatts in free practice, so left a little bit of time on the table, obviously, with that fast mode that he didn't use in practice. But crucially, I think there, the momentum was just there for Mitch Evans from the first lap. He just built up that performance lap on lap, just got faster and faster, and a huge margin over the rest of the field. And to be honest, Tom, when you look at how significant he was, being nearly a second faster than the rest of the field, he made a difference there, Mitch Evans.
Yeah, really, really did. Managed to get the maximum out of that car. Very impressive stuff from Mitch Evans. Incidentally, Evans and Friends were the 17th and 18th best qualifiers this season prior to today, which just shows how their fortunes have been in 2025.
Also shows you that when the rain comes, then it throws a few curveballs in there, and we've seen definitely a few surprise performances today, some that we expected to be up there as well. But for Pascal Wehrlein, quick all session. Ultimately, it was third on the grid, though.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll be a little bit disappointed with that. Ahead of the second row of the grid for Wehrlein. He's on the clean side of it, but, you know, it's not too bad.
Yeah, he's actually going to be lining up 6th overall, but he's got that free-place penalty as well to come into play, so he'll be actually at the bottom end of the top 10, so almost in the midfield, which could be a tricky place to start on the grid.
I wouldn't, in wet conditions going into that first corner, it's not the place you want to be, especially when you need the points for the title.
Well, historically, qualifying hasn't necessarily been that important here. The last 4 Tempelhof races have been haven't been won, rather, from higher than 8th position on the grid. So, you know, you would say that, well, maybe qualifying, it doesn't have that much meaning to it. But, of course, wet conditions, you want to be staying out of trouble. The higher up the grid you are, the more likelihood you've got of staying out of any bother. So we'll see what the top 2 are going to be able to do. But it's something for Envision to smile about there with their front row of the grid in the Envision machine. Pascal Wehrlein, he'll be lining up P6, as Billy rightly said, with that 3-position grid penalty, courtesy of the incident that he had after crashing into his teammate yesterday in free practice 1. But the upshot is Mitch Evans will be lining up on pole position for the first time in nearly 12 months. Cassidy, I think, will be wondering what might have been for Jaguar TCS Racing. We heard some technical problems for the Kiwi. He was pretty frustrated. Body language says a million things there as well as he talks with Lucas de Grassi.
I don't think that I'm a hero in Shanghai, but I'm not an idiot now.
So then, the qualifying session comes to a conclusion here. The rain's still pouring down. But let's catch up with the man who starts on pole position for the first time in nearly 12 months. Mitch Evans for Jaguar TCS Racing is at the head of the grid this afternoon.
Mitch Evans, congratulations on taking pole position today. Another unconventional qualifying this year in Formula E, but you were in a league of your own out there, 9/10 quicker than Oliver Rowland in Group A.
Thanks. Honestly, really unexpected. I've had a really mixed bag of results and performance in the wet weather this year, so wasn't really sure what to expect. But yeah, it seemed like from the first few laps I had a good advantage. I was able to keep improving as well, so you got to take it when you've got underneath you, and yeah, we were able to just be in front of the Group 2 guys as well. So let's see what the weather does for the rest of the day. It could get worse, could get better, but hopefully we get a race in.
What do you think the difference was in the pace? Was it in your driving style? Was it in the setup, the feeling in the car?
I've got no idea. I feel like I'm driving the same every time I'm on track or in these conditions at every venue, but the wet can really throw it up against you, and you know, sometimes I've been 2 seconds off on pace. Today we had quite a good advantage, so honestly it's just a bit of a gamble. But luckily I was able to extract it when we had it underneath us, and yeah, just very happy. I've had a really rough run this year, so just, you know, on my side of the garage, a really good boost, and obviously for the team in general. So hopefully we can convert it into a result. That's the next on the list for today.
We've obviously had a few wet races this year in Formula E. How important do you think qualifying at the front will be, especially with pit boost today? Yeah, with the pit boost, it's going to be another, variable that we're going to have to deal with. But I think just having, like no spray basically and a clean track, if I can hold on to the lead out of turn 1, that'll be normally it's quite a big advantage if you've got the pace to hang on to it. So yeah, hopefully we can use that and then convert a good result out of our starting position. Well, congratulations. It's time to present you with the Julius Baer Pole Position Trophy. We have Irene Muller, Group Head Strategic Client at Bank Julius Baer. Congratulations.
Mitch Evans, pole position for the first time since London 2024. Great job from him in the Jaguar TCS racing machine. He was in a league of his own out there in Group A. Ultimately, it would only be pole by 1/10 of a second, courtesy of that brilliant lap time right at the end of Group B for Robin Freitz. But, well, he really pulled it out of the bag. And after what has been a tumultuous 2025 campaign for Mitch Evans, he scored no points this calendar year. The last time he did score points was when he took victory in Sao Paulo back in December. So something for him to smile about, and let's get confirmation of the grid order then. So of course a lot of penalties coming through means that Sebastian Buemi will be right at the back of the grid. He'll have a stop-go as well with Nick Cassidy alongside. Sergio Sette Camera on his return to the championship for Nissan with David Beckman in 19th position. Then Zane Maloney in 18th place with Jake Dennis down in 17th. Work for the Andretti driver to do. Lucas Di Grassi P16, ahead of him is Sam Bird in the Neon McLaren. Next up you've got Felipe Drugovich, the rookie, making his debut in 14th place with Nico Muller for company. Stoffel Van Dorn in P12 with Edo Mortara alongside. He was on pole position here 12 months ago, let's not forget. Taylor Barnard inside the top 10. Verline has got that 3-place grid penalty. Just to remind you, he'll be lining up P9 with Dan Tincton in 8th position just up the road with Jonathan Byrne in the DS Penske alongside. Then it's Da Costa and Maximilian Günther, P6 and P5 respectively. Second row of the grid is occupied by Jake Hughes and Oliver Rowland, the championship leader. He's finished first or second to win the title this afternoon. And the front row is Robin Freiss and Mitch Evans on pole position.
Well, there's the action then for you from a wonderful qualifying here in Berlin. Slightly unusual as the rain is starting to come down more. We'll see you later on for the Berlin E-Prix live on Formula E Zone and JB Motorsports. Bye-bye.